Okay. Um, Actually, yeah, you know what? Maybe I won't go into every single fold. Maybe I'll go into just like things to keep in mind of when drawing clothing, because clothing, it can be kind of complicated, but it's actually not too complicated if you have a solid kind of mannequin. So it is unfortunately like uh, if you don't have the body figured out, then clothing is gonna be a little bit tricky. But it's always good to kind of at least get a little bit familiar with the different types of folds that there are when it comes to the body, or like when we wear clothes, what are the different types of folds that can occur. So I'm gonna go into those, and then we'll go into some things to keep in mind of when you're drawing and trying to apply clothing onto characters. Now, I'm going to send this out afterwards as well, but in general, I would say like these are the different types of folds that there are. And in order to identify them on a person, it's always best to kind of one, look at the type of material that the clothing is made out of, the type of outfit that it is, and then also how is it sitting on the body. So I guess those are things that you can kind of keep in mind. It's like material, so material can also be for like loose versus like stiff. So the stiffer or the looser a material is, so things like cotton or silk or um, linen, even like those are really, really loose things, meaning that they'll have more folds. The folds will be thinner and they'll kind of drape across the body in a bit more of a um, kind of form fitting in a way, depending on also how tight the material is. But those are things that you can kind of remember, is that the looser the material, the thinner and kind of sharper the folds are, and they'll also sit across along the body and kind of match the form of the body that it's hanging on top of. The next one that I said, I believe it was like the type of outfit. So these two are kind of interlinked. Like all of these qualities that I'm going to talk about, they're all connected. It's you can't really disconnect them from one another, um, because they're all related. So you do have to keep in mind of all three of these core aspects about clothing and how it sits on our bodies, whether it be human characters or creatures that you draw. These three things I would say are pretty common things to keep in mind when you're designing the character, or when you're designing the outfit and you're drawing the outfit onto the character. So the type of, oh, not type of connect, type of outfit, type of outfit. So the type of outfit would be like the is it a jacket? Is it a sweater? Is it a t-shirt? Is it a dress? And the reason why these things matter is because if you're wearing a dress, you're most likely going to be dealing with like looser material and it's probably going to be sitting on the body in this way. So the moment you draw anybody wearing a dress, there's a very, very high likelihood that you're going to be dealing with pipe folds. So pipe folds is kind of one of the easiest folds to draw and figure out, and it's kind of as the name implies. They are made up of essentially pipes. They're made up of cylinders that are going out and then in, and so you have this kind of like let's say this is the waist. You'll have a pipe that goes out, and then you have to kind of it folds in, and then you have a fold that goes out, and then it goes in and then out. And they're always going back towards the waistline. So that's like one thing to keep in mind for a pipe fold, is that all these kind of folds that are coming down from the waist, the part that's tight and sitting on the waist, they're creating these almost cylindrical type of folds. That's why they're called the pipe folds. And as long as you have it going like in and out, in and out, in and out, it'll look pretty convincing and pretty three-dimensional, as you can see like with this one over here. If you draw a pipe fold type of outfit and you just have it be like this, then this is not wrong, by the way, though. Like if you draw an outfit like a dress like this, that it technically could still be possible, but what you're then implying is that it's a very stiff and rigid type of dress that is molded and shaped to be like this, and it's able to retain its form. Even if it's a very loose outfit, there's probably going to be a chance that it ebb and flows a little bit, like even just like a little bit like that. So that's the whole concept of a pipe fold type of an outfit, and that's why like also keeping in mind of the material and the type of outfit is like very important, because that's going to make you understand what decisions to go into if you're designing like a dress for a character, because then you're going to have to think about how is the dress sitting on the body, where is it kind of tightened around, usually it's the waist, and then how is it like how wide is the dress coming out, and then how loose is the material. The looser the material, kind of like what I said, remember, the looser the material, the sharper and the more folds you'll have. So something like a silk dress might be something like this, where you get much more folds, whereas maybe a canvas, I don't know if there's such thing as a canvas material type of a dress, but canvas is very tightly woven. It's much thicker and it's much stiffer of a fabric. So a canvas style of a dress will have less folds. It might be a little bit more stiffer, and you'll have bigger billows like this. So a thicker, tougher material will have bigger kind of pipes, I guess you can think about it that way, and then thinner, looser material will have more folds to it. So that's one way that you can consider. And then I guess, yeah, body type. Body type would be like how wide or how it kind of matches the shape of the body. So these three things, always kind of keep these things in mind while also thinking about like the type of folds that would then happen. So like for example, like a type of outfit, like a jeans or a shirt, these are probably your most common type of folds, which are essentially like these ones over here. Like you got 1, 2, and 3. These are your main folds that are always going to happen. And I think the best way to kind of learn about these folds is to just look at samples from other arts, because Ella wanted to join. Okay. Hello. But yeah, best way to kind of learn is to find some examples of other illustrations, whether it be concept art from comic books, because what they do is they do a really good job of simplifying the folds so you can understand relatively how it works. Because when you look at folds like this, it can get kind of overwhelming. It's like, oh my goodness, there's all these like bends and folds and shadows, and then there's all these like ripples over here. But if you look at like this drawing here from, I think, Wreck-It Ralph, there is a half lock fold, or a drop fold and half lock fold. But you'll notice that the artist here, I believe it's Jin Kim, if we trace what he's drawn, he's essentially just made two kind of folds over here. And this is it. This is the leg shape. Oh, whoops. I think I drew it on the... Yeah, here. If you draw it over the leg, and we just trace what he's drawn, this is all he's done. So he's taken the half lock fold, like this one over here, and he simplified it to something like this. And so the general rule when it comes to folds is that you can get away with a lot of simplified folds. You don't have to go crazy and draw like, oh, there's one here, there's going to be a fold here, there's going to be a fold here. Like, you don't have to. You can actually get away, depending obviously on the style, with either just 1 or 2 folds even. So like, let's say this is just like a cuff shirt or something. So something like this would already be pretty good and wouldn't be too bad. So you can see that you got the shoulder up here and the arm goes down, and then we place the fold over here so that the volume of the arm is still legible on both sides, both in the forearm and in the upper arm. And so the fold usually sits around like the joint area. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you make the joint or like the fold like here, it's not going to feel believable, because what you're saying is that the joint is like right over here, and that doesn't match the mass of the arm. It doesn't quite match with the alignment of the angles, because if you've ever taken my anatomy classes, before, I always talk about, or if you even join in the figure drawing workshops, or if you've watched them, the replays on school, you'll notice that I always talk about matching the core of the shoulders with the core of the elbow, and the same thing, elbow to like the wrist area. And so if you do this and you have like overlapping limbs, and if you're ever like not too sure where the fold should be, just simply draw both the upper arm and the forearm intersecting each other and crossing over each other. And roughly where they cross is where you could probably put a fold. And you maybe, I would say, like shift it in like a little bit to like maybe here, and you'll get a pretty convincing arm fold for the most part. Like you might still have to finesse it a little bit in the cleanup, but it's a pretty good way of just getting a quick assessment as to where you roughly should put the folds. So folds, really, it's really just about like knowing where to intersect them. Put like one or two lines, and that becomes like the foundation or basis of where you should put things. Because for the most part, if shirts are hanging straight down or you're just kind of sitting, they're either hanging on your arm loose like this, like here's your hand, your thumb, you know, it's probably loose like this and it's sitting on the shoulder, or it's doing something like this where you have a half lock and you just have like two folds. So this is a much more simplified way, but hopefully it gets your your perspective, or the mentality you have approaching folds, to be more like, oh, it's actually, you don't have to go super complicated with clothing. You can get away with very simple like folds or no folds at all, as long as it matches the anatomy properly. And I think that's a very key part about clothing, is that it needs to match the structure of the body. So if it doesn't match the structure, but you're like, oh, but Josh, I didn't put that many folds, I simplified it like you said, but the body underneath doesn't really make much sense, then your clothing is also not going to really work either. But yeah, let me see. Okay, so when it comes to these ones, if you're ever drawing, and I know that some of you had Iggy's class where you guys were drawing like baggy clothing, my tip for these ones, like the spiral and the zigzag, is to understand that these are kind of randomized. They're quite like they just kind of happen. And so to bring it, I'm going to take away the image, and what I like to do is just like figure out where the shoulder is, figure out roughly where the hand is going to be. Like let's say this is my hand, and I want the arm to be going in this way. So a lot of times it helps to figure out roughly the mannequin and the direction that the arm is going to go in. And let's say you're like, oh, I want to do a zigzag fold because I now want to push the cuff up to here instead of having it sit over here. So this is what the arm is going to look like. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in a bunch of random zigzags, and maybe I might put a bunch of them around the elbow area, because it's all scrunching over here. All the weight is pulling the cloth down, and you also kind of force the clothing up the arm as well. So most of the bunching is probably going to happen around here. And I would also say that try to make sure that it fits and matches the curvature of the arm. So when I'm putting in folds, I am actually having them match the direction that it would be sitting around the arm. And do try to kind of like vary the shapes of them. Maybe this is a little bit too much. I wouldn't maybe go that spiky maybe, but hopefully what you're getting from this is that with the zigzag fold, it very is just like random. And now that I'm keeping in mind is like, oh, there's gravity pushing down, well then that means I will have less folds at the top, and instead, and also not only that, but the folds are going to sag more in a downwards fashion. So like the peak of the folds, like right here, you'll notice that they're kind of favoring a downwards position rather than a symmetrical even angle. And that's because gravity is pulling these folds downwards, and they're starting to sit and sag downwards. Gravity is pulling these folds down. And so now that I have this, I will have most of the folds sitting around the elbow, but it's kind of just like random. It doesn't really need to make too much sense. And what I would do is to start, maybe I'll erase some of these lines so you can kind of see it. It's not going to look perfect because I'm just kind of drawing it in the go, but I would just start adding kind of folds roughly in between each of the gaps. So I will look at one side and I'll look at the other, and I'll kind of connect the two with one another. Now, folds, it's kind of interesting because they're actually not very much. Um, I actually try not to outline them too much. So I would like indicate maybe a little bit of the folds, maybe connect some of them so it has a little bit of like a wrapping to it. And you'll notice like some of them sit inside, and then some of them I start from where I drew the fold. So like here is what I mean. Like they start from the bend and they go in, and then some of them just start in the middle. So you want to, it's like really just chaos is all it is, but you'll notice that I'm still matching the curvature of the arm, and it always goes towards this almost accordion style type of a fold, or not fold, but like the form and flow of it matches the direction that the arm is turning in. So there's a lot of things I'm balancing. I'm balancing like what type of fold this is. I'm balancing the direction that the body is bending in, and I'm also keeping in mind of how the fold is conforming to the way the body is bending. And I'm also like slowly, bit by bit, just thinking about like, okay, well, I drew a bend over here, like a little triangle here. Then maybe there's a fold that sits somewhere here. And then sometimes I'll add a little bit of a triangle over there. So these pocket folds, they're essentially either you draw them as a diamond, like a diamond shape like this, or you draw them as like a soft triangle. And you'll get a very convincing kind of pocket folds. And that's kind of how these zigzag folds are made. You'll notice that the shape outside of them is quite subtle. You can get away with like very just like subtle bumps here and there. And again, you can place them randomly, and then all you do is putting these kind of diamond pockets in a zigzag type of formation. So you'll notice that they're never standing right on top of each other like this. They're never stacked consecutively on top. They're going back and forth. So there's a pocket here, then there's a pocket over here, then there's a pocket here, then there's a pocket here, then a pocket here, and a pocket here. And you'll notice that it's also random whether you get a triangle, sometimes you'll get a diamond, sometimes you'll get an oddly shaped diamond as well. So it's all about kind of like just drawing it randomly, because it is random. When you fold and roll up your sleeves, there's no way of predicting exactly what shape you're going to get. So when you draw these diamond shapes, you can do some that are like this, you can do some that are maybe like this, you can do this, you can do like this. You can really vary up the sizes and the shape of them so it feels random. That's why you do the silhouette first, or that's why I do the silhouette first, and then I kind of figure out like where I should place the folds, and then I throw in some of the diamond folds. Now when it's the spiral fold like this one, they're going to be much more squeezed. If you decide to throw in some of these pocket folds, they're not going to be as open and wide as it is in like a zigzag type of a fold, because you're scrunching up and pushing the folds and like the clothing in on each other. The other reason why it's called the spiral fold, though, is that it does tend to follow a type of curving nature to it, but again, still have it match the flow of the arm. Yeah. And then one last thing is that if you're, we're going to go back to the half lock fold. If you're ever wondering, like, which direction that the folds should be going in, usually I like to think of it, well, you'll have to consider like where the main joint is. So for example, if the shoulder's here, I like to think of like the elbow is here, like the clothing is sitting in these parts and it's being stretched here. So there's almost going to be no folds on the back of the arm, and so it's like a tension. You're kind of, most of the mass is back here actually at the back of your shoulder and at the top. And because if you're bending your arm like this, you're pulling the clothing against the back of your arm, meaning all the folds bunched up around the front, around the bicep. So that means the clothing is being pulled in this direction. So, and it's the same thing on the forearm. The clothing is resting on like your wrist and the upper part of the clothing, but it's tighter on the bottom because that's just how the clothing is being bent and stretched. And so again, same thing, the tension is being pulled this way. So there is no like formula per se. Like you can't really go like, oh, it's always going to be bending or twisting inwards towards the center of the body. What you do want to think about is more like, how is the clothing sitting? Is it being stretched anywhere? And then what are the two tension points that's pulling the clothing in the opposite direction? That will be what helps determine the way it's stretching. But for the most part, I would say if you're never too sure, you can always just go like, oh, arm, and if the arm is bent this way, it's usually going to be bending in this direction. That's just naturally how it is. And it's the same thing with the legs. You'll notice that it's being pulled from like the butt to the knee. So these are the two tension points. So it's pulling in this direction. And then afterwards, the knee to the ankle. So it drops in that direction. And it's the same thing around the hips and the waist too. It's being pulled and tensed up around that area, around the groin area. So that's clothing. But I do highly encourage for you, everybody as well, like on your own time, look up some images from like concept art books or your favorite illustrations, and just do a quick exercise of just being like, okay, this image here, what type of folds do I see? Well, I see kind of like the folds are kind of going like this, so it's probably like a half lock fold, like these ones, this one over here. And it's like, oh, I also see like a fold over here. What fold would that be? Well, so we didn't go into this one, but this would be the diaper fold because you have two suspension points here, and it's kind of squeezing the folds inwards, and it creates a V-type shape for a diaper fold. So this is a diaper fold. You have two tension points, and it's coming in on each other, and because they're coming towards each other, it loosens the tension in the middle, which causes that fold to drop, and then it usually stacks and creates kind of this diamond shape in the middle. You have a surface usually that points up, then you have this like folded area, and then you have a plane over here at the bottom of that fold that points downwards, and then you have two hanging kind of pipe folds essentially. Now you might not see that exactly on clothing, but you'll notice it a lot for like clothing that maybe is like this, like thicker sweaters where the clothing is pushed inwards on each other. So it might happen a lot around the collar area because your shoulder is pushing the fabric of the clothing inwards on each other. That's why on shirts you'll see a lot of folds that are like this. So like if this is the collar and this is the neck, and it's like this is the head and whatnot, you'll see these folds. This is technically a byproduct of a diaper fold because it's your shoulder joints pushing inwards and it's loosening up the front area, and so you get these kind of folds that are just starting to happen. But because it's also sitting on the chest, it softens up and it doesn't have that like very drastic fold that sharpens up that you would see on a diaper fold. But you do see it here on her apron as well. Like there's tension points around the waist. It's pushed in on it to each other, and so it sags a little bit around here and then it hangs. So you can kind of see what I drew here around her apron is very similar to the one that you would see on like a shirt around the collar area. But yeah, this is like a really fun exercise, and what I would do is like, one, identify the type of folds, but also two, pay attention to how many folds they're using. And what you'll notice is like usually it's just 2 or 3. 3 is like kind of the max, and sometimes they'll even do this like loop kind of thing around the folds to give it, and it's kind of like it's a shortcut for like a pocket fold, so it represents a pocket fold. So even though this feels really complex, remember at the very core of it, be simple. Try to be as like, don't go heavy-handed with folds. And I'll show you an example that I did for, was it character design? And this is the project that we're going to be doing, actually. Let me see if I need to go look for it. And I'll explain what it is that we're doing. Is it here? Okay, here it is. So what we're going to be doing, and I'm also showing you this, so there's one more point that I want to get across, which is, actually I'm just going to drag it in. Oh, it's a big one. It's a big file. The reason why I'm bringing this, both like color and the line work, is that you can see, yes, there are a lot of folds, but I'm not drawing like every single fold that would be there. I'm adding a lot of bumps and indications of folds because it's supposed to be a big, heavy sweater that he's wearing. And then I added around here for like the stacking that would happen around the pants. But you'll notice that I added in the color version way more indications of folds and kind of like the changing in lighting and value in the clothes. And that's kind of the key with clothing. And so if I bring back this image over here, what you'll notice is that for some of these, well, maybe these are bad examples because they're more on the realistic side. But when it comes to folds, I would actually say the less you outline, the better it'll look. Because if you overly outline clothing, it'll look really kind of cheap, maybe. Not cheap, but very, well, sounds a little bit harsh, but amateurish in a way. So what happened? Yeah, messy and yeah, amateurish, because this is what happens if you over outline clothing. Like, let's say this is a t-shirt. A lot of times people will be like, oh, I want to add a fold here, and I want to add a fold here, and then there's like folds here, and there's folds here, and it just doesn't make any sense anymore, because when you put a line there, you're also telling the viewer that this is a very heavy fold. So when you put a very sharp line here, what you're telling the audience is like, oh, there's a very sharp bend in the shirt. But if a person is just standing up straight, you'll notice that, and you can do this on your own too. If you're wearing a t-shirt, just sit up straight and look to see, like, is there any fold around your chest area that's like very, very distinct and sharp? And like, yeah, there might be folds, but they're not like super, super apparent. And so the illusion or the trick with clothing actually comes down to lighting. I'm indicating a lot more of the folds in the lighting and in the shading than I am in the line work. I'm adding way more in there, especially in the pants. I'm adding like way more in the pants. And if I outlined every single one of these folds, it would make the pants and the line work just also look really, really like messy and chaotic, and it wouldn't really make any sense. And yeah, it would just feel very, like what you said, messy. So this is going to be your project. Your project is going to take a fictional character. I would say try to take a fantasy character. I think that would make a bit more sense. A fantasy leaning type of character, and put them in regular clothing. But the other challenge that I would have you do is to match it with a reference. So, do I have a sample? I do not have a sample of it. Okay, well, whatever. So this is kind of what I want you guys to do as well, which is to find an image. So two things: find a medieval fictional character, and this is kind of like a fan art project in a sense. It can be any kind of character, as long as they're not like overly modern in a way, because the way in order for this to like really work and stand out is like you're taking a character like, for example, Ganondorf, who are very used to wearing more of that fantastical, it's not medieval, but like, yeah, fantastical old style fashion, ancient fashion sense, and putting it into streetwear. So you're going to find a fictional character, and you're going to find a reference of like a streetwear image, and you're going to put the character wearing those clothing and also in that pose. So this way you're practicing two things. You're practicing how to draw clothing, but you're also learning how to study reference and apply the reference into your character as well. And to kind of show you how this can work, this is another version that I did for the summer camp, but with Zelda. And I basically took this kind of reference image. Obviously, I almost took it like 1-to-1. And I took Zelda and put her in this more normal, kind of casual, everyday type of clothing. You can definitely still find other images to give you a bit more inspiration. So this one was there more for like just to capture a different kind of vibe. I wanted two references just to give me a sense of the directions that I could take. But your goal is to find a reference, find a fictional existing character, and put them into streetwear clothes. Yeah. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, try to focus on clothing. It doesn't matter what type of style the clothing is, I would say, as long as it feels more modern, um, and more kind of like 20th, 21st century style of the clothing. Yeah. Any questions on folds? There's a few more images that I'll upload as well because I have a lot of notes on clothing, and it's a yeah. I'll upload these as well. So again, it's more of just like a reminder to look for like tension. Suspension is more of like how is it being held up by the body. So basically, how is it sitting on the body? So like the shoulders are points of suspension because that's how it's sitting. The waist is also a point of suspension because it's usually put there. Tension is more of like where is it being pulled from? So in this case, it was like the shoulder across the chest. The shoulder is a high tension point, and the chest is a secondary lighter tension point. So that's why you get a slight fold that would happen across the chest area. And then bunching is anywhere that the body is pushing the clothing into each other. So that was happening over here. You had the chest, like the clothing is dropping down, but the leg is also pushing the clothing up. So there's bunching that's happening here. And there would be technically bunching around the armpit and also bunching around the shoulders because the shoulders pushing the clothing towards the neck and the neck is holding that position. So there's clothing being bunched up there. But yeah, there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to clothing, but it's a lot to get into. I'll also upload this. It's essentially the same notes, but less chaotic, I guess. Actually, I'll upload this one. And so I'll upload this one. I'll upload the one with like the model, and I'll upload also this one as well. It'll feel like I just uploaded like 3 of the exact same images, but they're slightly different. But yeah, any questions about clothing, about the assignment? If not, then you guys can go ahead and get drawing.
Could you hear me just now?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. I did have a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In the process of like when we have our reference, we have our subject, and we're going the process, we've got the blank canvas in front of us. It sounds like the start in terms of like breaking down the structure of how we want to like start like sketch out sketch out not just the character but also the clothes. The idea is to get the mannequin, the pose the way we want it first, and then would the clothes then come like in terms of like the outline or the sketch of the clothes come after the mannequin, or like we would, because in terms of I'm thinking of trying to break it down in like big steps, like mannequin first,
Mm-hmm.
general shapes of the pieces of apparel second, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe you add more details on the character themselves, like facial features, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would go into detailing the actual the apparel.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I would this is a piece I was working on with the animation class beforehand, but it's exactly like you said. Um I was actually going to use this as a demo, but What I would do is if I was drawing a character and I was like not too sure,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you're in the rough stages. You figured out the idea and the concept, but now you want to refine it and make
Mm-hmm.
sure the final is as clean and well realized as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what I'll do is just get like the mannequin head shape, and like there's no details, but just so I know the proportion of it, just so that I can understand how it looks as a whole. And then I will put down like the mannequin body. Figure out like, okay, this is how large the body is. This is how the body is sitting underneath everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can divide it up to like, oh, here's the waist and everything. And the shape of the legs matter too. And this was something that I picked up on when I was looking at the Zootopia art book, is that the
Mm-hmm.
way they draped the legs or the draped the pants over the legs was based on like the shape underneath it. Because they're like, oh, well, the pants, if the tiger's leg is like this,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how to draw animal legs, but like let's say it's like this.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, if like this is the tiger's legs, thank you. Then this part will probably be straight because like the I don't know, the waist is over here, but then we can add a little bit of a curve, but then it will come back as it sits along the leg. So it wasn't just like a random shape. Oh, okay, bye Gabriel. No problem. I'll send you the recording later. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
But yeah, like they didn't just randomly just draw pants because they're like, oh, this is what pants shapes look like. It was based off of an understanding of what is happening underneath the model. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I'm doing like a character model sheet and I want to make sure that things make sense, I'll figure out what the mannequin looks underneath and just check to make sure that when I add the clothing that they're sitting on the proper parts. So in this stage of the refinement, I wouldn't be trying to figure out folds, but I would be thinking about the type of outfit and the body type. So I would be thinking about like, okay, what is the type of outfit? Well, it's a jacket. And what kind of jacket is it? Well, it's a boxy kind of bomber military jacket. So it's going to hang off of the body in this way. It's not going to be tight. It's not going to be tapered around the body. And it's the same thing with the sleeves. The sleeves are gonna be boxy and they're gonna hang over the wrist and things like that. But the pants, well, the pants are also gonna be stiff, but they're not gonna be as stiff as like a jacket would be. There would still be some looseness to it. So the front part, similar to like the Zootopia example, it's gonna just sit and hang pretty much straight down the leg. There's no reason to go like, oh, to add complexity, I'm gonna add like folds randomly. I'm just going to have the pants sit perfectly flat along the body because gravity is pulling the pants down and the pants is not interacting, or the leg is not cutting off. Like it's not, the leg doesn't pop out all of a sudden and push the pants forward. The pants is just going to sit flat and it's going to hang all the way down straight towards the ground. And
Mm-hmm.
because there's a low tension and it's a wide open leg, there's going to be very little folds and ripples or stacking along the feet because it's just hanging there. The only time that you would have stacking is if the pants are going to hit the leg or the foot or even the ground. Then you can start considering like, okay, well, what happens to the pants? Well, maybe the pants then start angling outwards because it's being pushed out, and then there's maybe a over here, and this would be an example of a zigzag fold, and then maybe there would be over here, and then it would sit like this, and if there's dragging, then maybe there's a little bit of like folds like this. And I would say like definitely look up samples, look up references of like how it would sit, try to start picking up the pattern as to like how pants sit on the leg, because for every piece of clothing and every person it's going to be a little bit different. And if you're trying to make up clothing off the top of your head, you'll find that it's actually quite tricky. It's quite hard
Yeah.
to do so.
Yeah.
So it's best to just look up references. But in this case, if I were to base it off of like an educated guess, this is my first take, and then be like, okay, well, the butt has to come out a little bit, so it's going to follow the shape of the body, and then it's going to come in a little bit because I'm like, oh, well, let's say tapering. Let's say I want to make the knees a little bit more tapered in. And because I tapered in, it's going to hit the calf, and then the calf is going to send the pants out a little bit more before it comes back in. So that's kind of why when I design the pants, that's what I'm considering. So I'm considering the type of outfit to understand the shape of it and the hardiness of the outfit, and then also the body type so I understand how it's probably going to be sitting on the body. Once I get this figured out, then I'll start adding folds to add a bit more life to it. So that's kind of what I did here, is just like adding a little bit of folds in the knees, because it, maybe in the stitching or in the making of the pants, they add a little bit of bagginess. Or maybe she's worn these pants before, and if you've ever worn like jeans, you'll know that once you start wearing them, the knees start loosening up a little bit and
Mm.
folds start happening around the knees. So I'm like, okay, we'll put a bit of folds there. And because maybe she's worn these pants for a bit now, I'm going to put some like these folds, just slight indication around the knees. Again, it's kind of like what happens at the back of your pants, especially with like jeans that are stiffer. Folds start forming and staying there at the back of your knees, so you would show up around the sides. And then I'm going to consider as like, oh, well, the groin area is also going to have folds, because when she sits, there's probably going to be like folds happening around these like areas. What am I? Here. It'd be like maybe there's folds like here, the whiskering that happens around the groin area. But again, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
want it to be that complicated, then you can always just stick with like simple ones that I did here on my screen,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just the flat area to show you where the groin would be, where the pants kind of come together, and then just slight whiskerings to show you the angle and the direction that is there. And it's the same thing with the arm too. Even though in the simplified deconstruction version of the arm sleeve, it's just a rectangular shape, I added just a little bit of rippling just to show that this clothing has been worn before. Added again one fold over here, or two, I guess, if you want to see it as two folds around the armpit.
Mm.
And that's pretty much it. So even though this is yes, it's a very simplified style, but hopefully you can also kind of see two very different approaches to how I do something a little bit more complex, but the philosophy is still the same. It's like
Mm-hmm.
underlying structure, body type of clothing, how does the clothing sit on the body, and then you use your basic information about all the different types of clothing, or not clothing, about folds, and see
Mm-hmm.
which matches uh you know the part that you need to put the folds in. um, yeah. Does that answer or like clarify the different stages, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Any other questions, or do you have any other more questions?
Um, I guess the only other thing I'm thinking about now that I'm kind of in the brainstorming phase here of just
Hmm.
just trying to decide on my subject, and then thinking about like, okay, if I'm going to look up references for more like 20th century clothing, like what kind of 20th century clothing, I guess would be the next question. Like you said 20th century, like modern day style clothes, but can that be anything from like say t-shirts to like formal wear, or like what would you, in terms of guidelines of like what kind of outfits we can pick, would there be, and any additional guidelines on that would you recommend, trying to
Mm,
stick with something more simplistic?
I think it's more of just like as long as it feels opposite of what the character normally wears,
Mm.
is already will be good enough, because the whole point is to like see a character in a whole new set of clothes that you would never see them in game. So like you would never see Ganondorf wearing a crew neck sweater and khaki pants and like
No.
Jordan Air Force Ones or something. Like that's never gonna happen, no matter
No.
how in the future we get. So as long as it feels very drastically opposite from what they would normally wear, I think that's the direction I would take. I say 21st century because most of the times, like, that's the easiest one to get away with, because if you drew like
Mm-hmm.
a sci-fi character, I guess you could go in that direction too. If you drew a sci-fi character, all that clothing would be very futuristic, very modern, but then you could put I don't know, like take a Blade Runner character and put them in medieval clothing. I don't know, like a
Well,
medieval rendering, a medieval version of like a cyberpunk clothing style. I don't know.
I don't
Um,
know. There are something. There are certain types of like genres or stories or games or movies where they take very interesting blends of both kind of
yeah.
fantasy. Like I think I think my brain is typically going to like where they blend the fantasy sci-fi genres.
Mm,
Sometimes you'll get interesting mix of like something that looks kind of modern but has
yeah.
like a flair of like the fantastical in it. But I think at least I'm kind of listing down like my different like potential subjects, and I've got some ideas, but it's just the next thing is like, okay, well, what and now I think I have to start thinking like what wouldn't they wear?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's okay. I mean, like, I think, yeah, like, definitely take the time to, like, brainstorm, like, what character do you even want to draw? What type of clothing style do you want to go with?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the
I have
more,
some characters in mind, but I'm narrowing. I want to write them all down first before I narrow it down.
yeah, the more opposite, I think, it just the more interesting it will be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me look.
Oh, and did you want me to give you any feedback on your food illustration?
Um, yeah, and if we have time for that, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. No, I think we got lots of time. I know you're like busy brainstorming, so if you want to brainstorm first and then have me look it over, I can wait a bit.
Yeah, give me like 5 minutes, and
Sure.
then to brainstorm. Because I feel like if I give myself that amount of time, I can at least narrow down
Mm.
who I would like my character to be.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got some I've got a running contest here between a few different characters, and I'm just like,
Okay.
which do I want? Which do I want?
Yeah, I guess you can technically go the other direction too. Like, you know how sometimes they have a version of Batman where it's Batman but in like 18th century London. Uh,
Wait, was that actually a thing? I feel like
yeah.
that was a thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah. They did
Oh
a
God, yes.
like an Elseworld story where Batman existed during the Jack the Ripper time.
Right. Oh my God,
Yeah,
yes. Shit, I forgot that was a thing.
yeah. Yeah, so you could do something in that other flip direction instead of a medieval fantasy going modern, you could go modern going fantasy direction. Um
Mm.
so
Mm-hmm. Okay.
yeah.
Huh. Okay. Let's see. I just want to get six, and then I can decide from there.
But yeah, now I have to think too. I have to brainstorm. What do I want?
The real challenge, even before you put any lines on a page, just trying to just come up with ideas.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you know what? While you guys are brainstorming, I will write the assignment in. So if you need a review as to what the assignment is, it will be in the June submissions. If you need a reminder of what you need to do.
Okay, I've got some ideas.
Okay, cool.
Still haven't decided to settle. Do you mind if I like list them out loud? Maybe just get a second
Sure,
opinion.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Unironically, because I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 lately, I have two characters from that on here. Either Alphino, who is one of the younger characters in the game, and then Estinian, who's like this big kind of like dragon hunter knight.
Hmm.
Maybe like putting him in like loungewear would be pretty funny because he does that is like the farthest thing from him for sure. I also have Freerin from the gosh, what's the name of the anime again? I mean, it's just called Freerin.
Yeah.
Um, Karlak from Baldur's Gate 3. And I've been very tempted to draw this character, but I've not had an opportunity to do so. But I love the art style of this show. Dragon Prince, Rayla from the Dragon Prince.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I really like that show, and then it took forever for them to release the latest one. So when I tried jumping in, I was like, I don't remember
I
anything.
know. It's just like, gosh, there's been so long between seasons. Just like you have to kind of go back and watch the other ones all over again in
Yeah,
order to
pretty
really get
pretty
all in your
much.
brain.
Yeah. I feel like even the recap wouldn't do it justice because of all the just like the subtle nuances and character relationships and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's kind of ironic though. Like the ones that I'm leaning toward the most, it feels like more than half of the characters I've just judged like, okay, you have pointy ears, you have pointy ears, you also have pointy ears. It's like, there seems to be a trend happening here. Um, gosh. I don't know. I feel like I've got a runner. I've got a two-way tie between Estinian and Rayla right now. I can't decide. Maybe I should just roll the dice and see who lucks out. Where's my dice? Uh,
Oh, you literally rolling a dice.
why not?
Okay.
Why not? That's
Nice.
sometimes when I am like absolutely like I cannot like my brain is just not in any position to make a decision. It's like, okay, I shall leave it to the hands of fate.
Yeah. I like it.
Fate, take the wheel. Okay, so let's see. This is a 20-sided die. Okay, if it's let's see. If it's 10 or lower, we'll do Rayla. If it's no wait, yeah. If it's 10 or higher, Estinian. And of course it hides underneath my drawing pad, so I have to pull it out. Okay, it's gonna be Estinian.
Nice.
I hope everyone doesn't mind my running dialogue here.
No, it's good. It's good. Uh, yeah, I don't know what to would go for.
It's like, okay, I've decided on a character. Now I have to think, well, okay, what am I gonna make him wear?
You remember? So with the reference, you don't have to match it exactly, but do have it be a source of like inspiration or like a foundation for the pose.
Hmm.
Mm.
Ooh, I just had an idea. Like 1990s street clothes.
Mm.
That might be fun.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Mm.
It's not a PNG.
We got one.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna draw Kratos in like
Oh
suit and tie.
yes,
It'd be kind of interesting. Interesting, or maybe
that
like
would
a,
be awesome.
or maybe like a like a motor, like a biker jacket or
No,
something.
like, a biker jacket would be perfect for him. 100%.
Anybody watch that movie Bike Riders with Austin Butler and Tom
Can't
Hardy?
say it rings a bell.
It was this movie.
Let me see, hold on.
I was like gonna watch it, but then I don't know how it turned out. So I'm like, it's on Prime. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch it one day. But
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
yeah. Mm.
It's funny, I'm typing into Google 90s streetwear for for men's streetwear and for the 90s, and like I'm getting just as many pictures of ladies as I am men, and I'm like, I thought was specifically searching for. Let's see what Pinterest has to say.
Oh, anybody see the new Mission Impossible movie?
No, I haven't got. I know people have been talking about it though.
Yeah, I want to go watch it, but me and my friends have not been able to set a time.
Mm-hmm. my dad has been desperate to because we typically watch a lot of the Marvel movies, so my dad's been trying to insist that like
Mm.
we should really go out and watch the new movie, The Thunderbolts, and I'm like,
Mm.
I mean, I was at least somewhat interested in seeing this over some of the other movies that have come out in the most recent years, but still, like,
Yeah,
for some reason, I'm just like, I'm not feeling motivated at all to go.
yeah. No, I I did hear relatively good things about it though. So
Mm-hmm.
I think me like I'm gonna maybe go watch it on Friday, but we'll see
Oh, okay.
if we can go get tickets. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Marvel has been not doing so great lately.
I feel like there's some, I mean, most would argue they lost their mojo a long time ago, like basically after phase one
Mm,
was finished. But
yeah.
I mean, I think the magic in terms of like having all of these characters, all these different movies, and then all the characters coming together, it's been done so many times now, and even outside of the big team up movies, like the magic has kind of faded away a little bit
Mm-hmm.
as far as that's concerned. So I get it, but at the very least, you want to be telling, in the individual movies, you want them to be good stories with good characters and not have to wait or rely on references to other stuff that's happening in the same universe in order to carry the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, for sure. It does feel like it's well, in a way it like makes sense because it's like you know, it's because like after phase one, I feel like the mentality was probably like, oh, we could just jump right into it, and it's like we could just carry on the momentum and the hype that we had after Endgame and Infinity War, and we don't have to set anything up. People will come watch the movies anyways, and then
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I think they didn't realize like, well, all the characters we now have are new, and we never got a chance to set up these new characters. So all of a sudden, just having all these movies, but then we're like, okay, but we have no connection to them. We haven't seen them develop or anything, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it doesn't really quite work the same.
And you know what I think really got me is that at least especially as we marched from like say the very first Avengers movie into the stuff setting up for Infinity War is that it feels like outside of a certain like I don't know, for some reason I felt like with like the core cast of characters that we built for the Avengers, we saw them doing a lot of like cool stuff, but
Mm.
I would have much rather like give those characters a lot more room to breathe and just interact with each other.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't feel like there was enough of that.
yeah.
I just had a brainstorm. I think I found some better clothes that I'm gonna put my character in. I'm gonna make him wear Judd Nelson's outfit from the Breakfast Club.
Oh, wait, is that the bully guy or the
Yeah, yep,
outcast guy?
yep, that's the one.
I love Breakfast Club. But the first time I watched it, I was like, it kind of starts slow,
It
and
very slow.
but then afterwards, if you stick with it, it's such a good movie.
It's very well done. And at least I know with the in the movie he's wearing like his outfit has layers. Like he starts off with like that thick coat, and then the longer they're in the library in detention, like he's got the like the denim jacket, and then he's
Mm.
got the like the flannel underneath that. So I think I'll probably stick with at least one of those versions of his what he's wearing in that movie.
That's kind of cool. That I never made that observation. He's like shedding the layers.
And there's also layers of protection. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of cool.
that's proper visual storytelling right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just trying to look for some good images that try to get the full look, and that's proving difficult. I don't think. Okay. And would you recommend if, like, say, any of the poses from the images I found don't really fit, like, even though it's the outfit that I want, it's totally fine to take another image as like for a pose.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. The honestly, the goal is just so that you guys get familiar with just using references to help you build the knowledge that you need for the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to change it or you move away from it, it's totally fine. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be like a full one-to-one replication of the
Got
reference.
it.
check in with everybody in about a few minutes. Just ask if anybody needs any help, and whatnot. But feel free to keep working.
Yeah, I'm still in the reference collecting phase.
Oh yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, no worries. I would say the more the better. Can't hurt to have a plethora of references.
No. Though I typically find myself whenever I'm even when I'm still figuring out like okay, what am I drawing? Sometimes I
Hmm.
have a tendency go down a bit of a rabbit hole with doing reference.
Yeah, yeah. That is the other problem is like sometimes looking for references can be too much fun.
Yeah.
And it's like I just want to keep looking at all this inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I had a friend who was like that in university, and I'd make fun of him because he would look for like literally everything. I'd be like, why do you need to look for that? That has nothing to do with your drawing. It's like I don't know, you never know. I'm like, okay, sure.
Are you sure? Sorry, are you sure about that?
Yeah, you can use that if you need it. Okay, sure. Are you sure you need that? Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, funny enough, he would go through all of that work, and you know what? He would find stuff that he would come up. It would allow him to come up with ideas that you probably wouldn't really maybe come up with unless you dug that deep into like the references or inspirations and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes his idea he would say is like, oh yeah, I have this idea here, or this small little inclusion of like an item because I found this about the culture or the history of the company or something. I'd be like, okay, you know what? I guess you made it work for yourself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it works, it works. So, but sometimes it does feel like it's just a overly excess amount of research you would do.
Yep.
Uh, Rachel, did you want me to go over your food drawing, or did you want to wait a
Uh,
little bit?
I think I've gathered references that I think I can work with. So yeah, if we want to go over that now,
All right,
happy.
sure, yeah.
And then I would be happy to share at least with what I've gathered with reference to
Yeah,
see if I've got a good foundation.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
let's start with this.
Sure, yeah. So how did this go? Is there anything that yeah, let's go through like what you really like what you enjoyed about it, or like yeah, what did you enjoy about rendering this, and then also like what are some things that you're still not too sure about or not
I
too happy with?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I know the focus of the assignment was to go for like stylization. I think in terms of playing around with like using like certain colors with like light and shadow on the objects to kind of provide like more of a texture. I ended up really enjoying how the eggs turned out, the eggs that are floating in the broth there.
Mhm.
Um, like most of the contents in the ramen, I was really happy with the noodles. I think look pretty okay.
Yeah.
The eggs too, and the pork. I think I was trying to when it came to the broth itself, I was trying to figure out ways. Like I figured like the lighting direction that I have is good, but I remember with how when you were doing your version of the assignment last week, how you really like punched up that cup of coffee to have all
Mm.
those like that detail. And I was looking through the various references that I have for like the ramen broth, and at least in terms of how I could add detail to it, nothing was really like popping out to me.
Mm. I forgot, did you have a reference
I
for
did.
the ramen?
I did.
Oh, okay. Did you post it like a while ago, like when we first
I
started,
might
or?
have. I don't remember necessarily. I think most of the time I've just been posting the
Hmm.
what I've been drawing as opposed
Yeah.
to the references I've been using.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see it. So I think you're like the reason why the coffee popped so much is because of that high contrast, the darks and the really
Right.
brights. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, everything like an overall value scale. So this is a good exercise for all of you guys to do if you ever want to try this, which is to, and this is an exercise we did in like university on my like first year, which is to
Mm-hmm.
just grab a photo, and if you need some assistance first, you can grab a black and white photo and kind of distribute a scale for yourself, like a
Mm-hmm.
chart, like a gradient scale, not a gradient scale, but
Mm.
like a swatch type of scale. And
Hmm.
what you would do is you would kind of figure out like let's say if I looked at your image, the overall color, like let's say, is pretty gray. So I would say like majority of it is gray like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then oh, the blacks, you have some blacks, so or darker values. So the darks not too much. So maybe like this amount. And then
Mm-hmm.
you'd be like, oh, the blacks, there's a good amount of blacks, so it'd be like this amount. So I'm just kind of randomly just doing it,
Yeah.
but you have
Yeah.
an idea. But what this exercise is good at doing is it helps you to observe what values are showing up in your image, and it might not be all the values. You might actually only end up with like five or four, because in most realities, like you might not get a pure white showing up in a photo, or you might not get a pure black in a photo. Most of things resolve around like the middle area. But what this exercise also trains you to do is also figure out like how much of those values are showing up in that image. So the reason why I'm bringing up this exercise and why it's good to kind of do is because when I look at the ramen broth, probably what could help with the punchiness is that right now everything is fairly light. It's fairly like very
Mm.
bright in value, but it's missing that dark the dark shadows or the darkness that might be happening underneath in the broth, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe some cast shadows in between the noodles and some of the submerged meat values that are happening underneath the soup. So like when the meat goes into the soup, it changes the colors a little bit. So just
Right.
these fluctuations in values is going to make the light stuff pop, because if everything's too light, then nothing stands out. Everything's kind of like the same level. So if you
Right.
just increase the value of like the soup, like let's say we brought it down to like a more orange, and I don't know if this is the right color or not, but like just putting it inside certain
Mm-hmm.
areas maybe will like help pop it, bump it up a little bit, and like maybe underneath the meat or in the noodles and whatnot. And then what also you could do too is like once you have these dark areas, the reason why the coffee worked too is because in the light areas there's these like bubbles that would
Mm-hmm.
like show up. And I don't know how it looked like in your reference, but try to look for those too. Like try to look for like the high contrast and kind of like where you can place them. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that the drawing might look a little bit different from the reference, but you're trying to like extract like roughly what the pattern is and apply
Mm-hmm.
it to your own bowl.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's probably the trap I fell into. I was trying to stay too closely of the color of the broth. Like
Mm-hmm.
the particular ramen that I picked is a very like the broth is a lighter color for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like you're right in terms of like making sure that because this is a stylization, it doesn't have to be one to one like the actual in terms of like it color like even as long as it's like the same range but it doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
necessarily be the same value.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, So yeah, that's like the first thing that stands out is like this, but I know that that's what you brought up as well. Um, and let me see. The bowl, I feel like, the bowl probably could add like just like a bit of like a reflective light on it,
Yeah.
just
Uh-huh.
like a little bit, so that the reflected reflectiveness of the in the center of the bowl really stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But I would have to pay attention. I would have to take a look at the reference too, just to see like, oh, if you're referencing a certain bowl, how is the reflection
Mm-hmm.
moving around the bowl? Is
Mm-hmm.
there any kind of bounce lighting happening at the edge at the bottom over here? Because the table's light is probably bouncing up a little bit more as well. And because of that, if because you're kind of cornering it with like a very bright edge on one side and then reflective lighting on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to make that these like darker values in the middle really really pop, and it's going to make it really feel much shinier. So right now what's happening is that its majority of the bowl is black, which makes sense with the type of bowl that you usually get from like a ramen shop.
Mm-hmm.
But to again, the whole like stylization, if you really want to push it, you can
Mm-hmm.
essentially pinch the dark shadow areas with like a bright highlight and then a brighter reflective lighting so that the shininess in the bowl really like
Mm-hmm.
comes forward. And I would say
Mm-hmm.
like don't you don't have to be afraid to also go all the way to dark if you want to. I think is for this one especially, I think it's okay because like these bowls are usually like really really dark.
Yeah,
So
I
like a
agree.
darker value would really just like bring it full front and center. And like you can already kind of see it like this the sense of contrast with like the ramen colors and like the darkness in the bowls or the darkness in the bowl and everything is already making like there's a little bit more complexity happening inside of
Mm-hmm.
the ramen bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just simple things like that. And then the cup here too is just like one more value, and I think it would help too. So you can think of this as like the core shadow happening
Mm-hmm.
along the cup, and then down, and then on the side that's where you have the reflective lighting. So
Mm-hmm.
even if it's a lighter value, I would still have just this like one extra more value to add a bit of pop to the colors.
I agree. Yeah, that
Yeah.
already looks vastly improved. How like with the coloring in the actual like green of the tea itself too? Was that
Mm-hmm.
a like a because what I did is I had the shadow like what I put the part that I knew would be covered by the rim of the cup.
Yeah.
The regular like kind of it lit up, but then there's the bit of like more of like direct light into or a reflection of reflecting light in the tea.
Yeah. No, I really like this. In I like the inclusion of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good contrast and helps too. Um, I was noticing something with mine as well, which is like the shadow, the cast shadow at the top could be quite
Mm-hmm.
dark. So
Oh,
again, same
right.
thing. You can bump up the contrast there, and
Mm-hmm.
this does take a little bit of finesse though to just like slowly blend it together. And if you want a
Mm-hmm.
bit of that cast, like not recast, but like reflective lighting from the green tea bouncing up, I would put it closer to like around the lime green area maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Instead of like going for this green and then just putting it on. It might not make exact sense, but I don't know. Maybe it could work. Having like a little pop of green might actually be nice.
Yeah,
Could
no,
work.
it makes sense. I drink tea all the time, surprise, surprise, and that kind of reflectiveness on the actual mug of like what you have in the mug is an actual thing. So,
Yeah. I would match the reflection of the curve closer to the rim that you have on the cup, but other than
mm-hmm.
that, I do really like the cast shadow like indicated there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think the overarching kind of I guess feedback for yours is just like go all in on the high contrast. I there's
Mm-hmm.
like the higher the contrast that you have, especially for more stylized pieces, the more it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna like pop. Like I would say I actually have no I would leave the takoyaki as they are. I don't think I would change them because they're so colorful and bright already. So I don't think there would be any changes I would put there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then one little last tip for like shadows, especially for like bright lights, you can always
Mm-hmm.
add just like a bit of saturated orange, maybe, like around the edge.
Oh, okay.
and it kind of simulates like a very intense light. Like you'll notice like in bright sunlights, especially when it's like really bright in the middle of the day and it's cast the shadows hitting
Mm-hmm.
to capture that intensity. If you give a shadow like just a little bit of a sliver on the edge, like just a little bit of an orange color, or maybe even like an intense red color, you'll have to kind of play around with it just to see how far you can push it. But it does simulate a little bit of like an intense like brightness to it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something that you can play around with. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like needed, but it's like a cool little extra pop of color that's very subtle in it. But
Absolutely.
yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's just like you did a really great job with this. I
Well, thank
think you did
you.
a good observational breakdown of like the foods and how you could put it together and everything. But yeah, so if you ever try this again, feel free to definitely lean into the contrast of
Mm-hmm.
colors, and I think it
Gotcha.
will look really, really good. Yeah.
I will definitely have to do something like this again. I think this was a very fun assignment and allowed me to really like practice like everything I've been learning up to this point.
Cool.
So I think it was a lot of fun. So thank you.
Nice. Do you need a screenshot or you're okay?
Let me do. I'm doing a print screen right now. So let me just do that. So, and I'll include the little bit you got on the side for like the scaling of how
Yeah,
of the colors.
it's not accurate, but it's hopefully yeah. That's the idea for the exercise if you ever want to try it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I would. Because I feel like that's something I should practice. But and yeah, unless anyone else has wants to jump in or have any questions, I was thinking about just sharing what I have for reference so far. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you can go first. We still have like 30 minutes, and since there's only three of you, the others are asynchronous and Gabe left, so I think we should be fine. Give you
okay,
guys enough
I
time.
just don't want to be hogging your time there, Josh.
No, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, let me just make sure that I have my pure ref document in the right area. There we go. Okay, and now I can share screen. So I'm using the pure ref software to
Mm,
gather all of my reference.
nice.
So we've got the outfit in question. Here's the character, and then I was thinking maybe this kind of like a seated pose.
Mm, okay. Wait, I forgot. Are you drawing the Baldur's Gate character?
No, this is the character from Final Fantasy
Oh, okay,
14,
okay.
the Dragon Hunter.
So you're drawing the Final Fantasy character, or
Yes.
okay, in the Breakfast Club outfit, in
Yes.
the pose on the upper left. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think that'd be cool. Yeah, it's a pretty good one. If you want to, this is a exercise that could help if you're still kind of figuring out how to draw like poses accurately. Is to
Mm-hmm.
you can take the reference and bring it into your drawing software and just draw a mannequin over it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can like track where the torso would be, where the shoulders are, like the angles of the arms and everything. So some something like just trace over it roughly, and then
Mm-hmm.
like the angle of the arms and things like that. It doesn't have to be a very complicated, fully in depth kind of drawing, but this way you can kind of see where the limbs should go and where everything should roughly be. Something like that. Uh,
Okay, gotcha. That
and
think that would be a good place to start, just so I
yeah,
know, just so I know what I'm building on.
yeah, and then once you get the framework down and you decide that you want to exaggerate it, you can make the body longer if you want to.
Yeah,
But
I might need to do that because the character is a tall man.
yeah, yeah, and the same thing with like the limbs if you need to make them bigger, longer, whatever it is. But like you can use this as like the blueprint essentially of
Hmm.
like where things should be in the angles of them. And I would say like that's probably the most important is like remembering the angle of the limbs, not necessarily the volume. So for me when it comes to mannequins, the angle and the skeleton of it is much more important because you need the angles and the skeleton to build the volume around it, or else your limbs sometimes go like they don't match up. Like some people do like something like this where the limbs don't match up with the angle of the
Mm.
arms, and then the proportions don't quite line up, or they bend the arms where it shouldn't be bending, or they break the
Hmm.
arms. So if you figure out the skeleton, and not the skeleton but like kind of like the stick figure of
Hmm.
the pose, then building the mass around it becomes a little bit easier. But yeah, this is kind of like a exercise that I always do for people just learning like figure drawing and drawing
Hmm.
poses.
Got it. And I think I'll probably try to use what remains of our time tonight, to try and see if I can get at least that.
Yeah, no, it's good. Uh, Key. Let's see. Curb, how about you? How's your piece coming along? Or what are you drawing? What is your character and the direction you're going for?
Hello. Uh, yeah. I have a bunch of just refs piled on to my workspace.
Yep.
Hang on, I can share what I have right
Sure.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Please.
It's a little bit of a mess right now.
That is
But
okay.
Ooh,
Oh, wow.
nice.
yeah, I wanted
Wait.
to get the base done before I start putting clothes on it.
Cool, cool.
I feel like I recognize the character you're
The
using.
character is what's I hang on. I Her name is Discaras from Ichi the Witch.
Oh, okay.
A
Interesting.
bunch of reps of her just on the screen right now.
Lovely. Very cool.
Cool.
She's like a very like proper, elegant type of lady. So I
Mm.
so you said put them in clothes that they would not wear. What about a mini skirt?
I like it. I like it. Nice. That's cool. Yeah, no, it looks really good. I really like the pose. This feels like something that like I would do as well. Like very stylized, elongated limbs and everything.
Yeah,
Oh, it looks cool. I like it.
because yeah, the style of the manga, she does have pretty long limbs, I think, under all of the
Mm.
cloth.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, nice. Did you have any like questions or anything about the pose, or you're like, oh no, it's good. It's coming along.
Yeah. I think I was just worried that the limb proportions, even if they are exaggerated, if they at least made sense.
Uh, I think they like for now they make sense because you're gonna put the clothes on top. So usually
Yeah.
after you put the clothes, I would assess the proportion based on the clothes. So it's kind of like you're just checking all your bases. So this goes for anyone too. Is like yes, you start off with the mannequin and then you put the clothes over the mannequin so you understand how it's sitting on top of the body and the folds. But then after that, I would then evaluate it with the clothes. This sounds weird, but like
Okay.
um because the proportion changes obviously, like you're going to add the socks, the boots, the skirt, the outfit, like it's going to change the proportions. But as long as the character looks good with all these adjustments afterwards, then I think it's fine. Even though the limbs may look really really long, if it works on its own like as an image itself, then I think it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, cool. Nice. uh Ella, how are you? Are you working on anything? Or what is your, if you are, what is your character? I know you said you saw a bonfire, so maybe you're doing a bonfire type of character. No, Ella. Oh, uh, bonfire type of character. Okay, cool. Oh, that's cool. Sounds good. I think I'm gonna kind of do a mashup as well. Mashup of like Kratos's existing outfit with the. Actually, I don't know how the axe sits on him. I'm like, does it? Which way does it sit on his body?
Yeah, because it sits on his back, doesn't it? It's like
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's more like that video game thing where it's just like he just like clicks it into his back, and it's something that's
yeah,
just attached to his back just holds it.
yeah, yeah.
So maybe I could like think of it maybe like what do they use? Like you know how guitar players have those big like guitar cases like strapped on their
Hmm.
back? Maybe think of like the axe like a like a guitar strapped to his back, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter what. Well, I'm trying to just think of like which side would I see the blade from. Like on this
Hmm.
side, it's hidden, but on this side, it's more visible. But then I'm like, oh, I want it to be semi accurate. But
Hmm.
yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter
You could have
as
it
long as.
hanging off the bike, also.
Oh, actually, that's not too bad. I did want to change the shape of the bike to match, be a little bit more fantastical and break outside of the
Mm.
photo. That's not too bad. That does get me thinking, like, oh, I could probably attach like the blades of chaos on the side too, or
Oh, that'd be
something.
metal.
Yeah, but I like that. That's a good suggestion. Axe on the side. Probably do that. Did you play the? Did you play Ragnarok, Rachel?
No, I have not. I have only played the first one.
Hmm.
I understand Ragnarok is on my list, however. I just as was with normally happens with me, games come out, I want to play them, but I already have like 15 other things that I'm either playing and or doing
Yeah,
or
yeah,
have
yeah.
on my list to do, and it's just like it's a never-ending case of just constant like priority switching.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in the same boat too. I was telling Stream last night, is like, should I get Lies of P or not, guys? Well, not I wasn't asking, but I was just like
Mhm.
saying it out. I was like, I really want to get because it's on sale right now. But then I'm like, I haven't finished so many games, and I feel like I should finish those games first.
Yeah.
But but I got it. I played a little bit of it, and I'm like, oh okay, this is not too bad. It's pretty good.
Well, a lot of people that I hang out with have been telling me like you need to play Expedition 33, and I'm like, I know. I would
Mm.
love to, but I'm still like there are so many other games that I've yet to finish, and I would like to at least finish one before I constitute, justifying to myself of I will buy another game, especially
Yeah,
when
yeah,
it's as I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
You good over there, Ella?
You have a question, Ella?
I think she's unmuted.
Hello? Thought I heard my name. Like, gosh.
So I think I've got a. Well, you know what? Hold on. Let me not count my chickens before they've hatched. Let me keep working on this. I don't think she realized she's unmuted.
Okay, I'm gonna just mute you, Ella. I don't know. Oh, do you have it almost done?
At least the skeleton
Okay,
sketch.
okay.
Let me bring that up here. This is what I have so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's good. That'll give you a good foundation, I think.
Yeah, I'll double check as I feel like I think I still need to remember the anatomy differences between the subject of the reference and the character in which I am drawing. So I'm gonna
Mm,
just double check. I think I might need to make the feet a little bit longer. But then again, the fact that feels like part of the legs are foreshortened, like especially like the thighs, the main thigh that you see there is kind of semi foreshortened
mm,
because it's the knees coming toward camera
yeah,
before
yeah.
coming back down. So I'm not sure how, like, realistically, how come, even if I know for a fact that the character is very tall, it's just like, how can I play with those proportions?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of it. You can
Mm-hmm.
keep kind of push and pull, see where it gets you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know got a very high waist, so maybe I'll just make his waist taller. Oh, got the wrong layer. Wrong layer. That'll. Okay. Stop sharing. There we go.
Got 8 minutes left. So if anybody has any last kind of questions or anything, now is probably a good time to ask. But if not, that's okay.
I think I'm okay. I think the only other thing I should probably know this by now, but in terms of like double checking anatomy, I probably would just need to look at like anatomy references if I need to really, if I have
Mm,
any concerns like, am I doing this right?
yeah, yeah.
Actually, one question I did have was
Mhm.
that trick that you mentioned in regards to the anatomy, like with the shoulders, the the circle, like the through line from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist is just everything. Like if it hits the shoulder to the elbow, that should be a through line.
Yeah, so the reason why is because maybe in for your reference it's not too big of a deal, but in like I don't know, in the future if you ever draw like more muscular people where you can see the muscles, um the reason why you draw this like through line is because when you draw like the muscles, the biceps and the
Mm-hmm.
triceps and everything, a lot of people get kind of caught up in all the bumps in the muscles, and
Mm-hmm.
especially in the forearm area where if someone's doing like a fist or something, and you can
Yeah.
see like the curvature in the forearm. A lot of people tend to actually bend the forearm way more than it should be. So
Mm-hmm.
by just having this like directional angle line, you can kind of see whether it the muscle mass is wrapping around the arm properly. Because even though
Mm.
yes, it does look like it's bending, in the center of it there should be bone that is still straight, like it still
Mm-hmm.
follows like a pretty straight trajectory.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the reason why.
Okay. I'm probably overthinking it because the fact that, the main focus of this assignment is to be able to draw the clothes, and if the clothes are covering out the body, then
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
right.
the
Right.
emphasis is on the clothes. So as long as I would say the anatomy makes sense, then
Mm,
I think it's fine.
got it.
Like the underlying structure and how the clothing is sitting on top. I think as long as that feels believable, then I think it should be okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're almost done like class. Uh, but yeah, so hopefully with this assignment it gives you a chance to practice some clothing and some like folds and get an idea as to like how you can use the folds and kind of pay attention to like what folds should be happening and how to where to place them. But I think down the road, as like once you use this exercise, definitely take a chance to experiment and try things out.
Hmm.
Because similar with all kind of, I guess, rules when it comes to art is that like the goal is to practice it in a more traditional technical way. And then once you kind of practice it a little bit, definitely see where are places that you could push the boundaries of folds and like how you can use it to your advantage. Because the fun thing, and I posted this on the stream as well, is like I posted a few different examples of character designs with like different outfits and everything. But clothing is very much a part of also like shape language and shape design and character design. So um, once you understand folds and it's not as intimidating anymore, feel free to like let loose with the shape of the clothes and like what type of clothes you use and how can you put it on top of your character, and all that kind
Hmm.
of stuff. Because clothing doesn't have to be super intimidating. It doesn't have to be that. Doesn't have to be really really hard. So kind of hopefully down the line or even with this project, you guys are able to like have fun, let loose a little bit with the folds and have more fun just dressing up the character.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Thank you. I think I will.
yeah. Okay, cool. Anybody have any last questions? I don't know. If not,
No,
then
not from
cool.
me.
Cool. Well, have a good rest of the week and have a good weekend, and I will see you guys next week. Yeah,
All right. How many more classes do we have?
I think two more. I
Okay.
think. Yeah, yeah. Should be the 24th
Got it.
as the end. Yeah.
All right. Understood. Have a good week, Josh.
Bye.
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 Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Good night.